Your host, Brannon House.
House Live here on this February 21st, 2025. It is my 34th wedding anniversary. Melissa and I's 34th wedding anniversary. So happy anniversary, Melissa. And don't worry, I'm going to take her out to dinner this weekend. A nice dinner. But hey, we got a big show tonight. Alex Newman's going to join me. I called him today and said, I got an idea. It's time we think outside the box. I got an idea. How about we take a district and we do a test in Florida, Texas, Tennessee, somewhere, and we fire all the teachers at the local public high school. And let's replace them with volunteers. People like you, me. I could teach history. I could teach on communism, worldviews. I could teach on communications, broadcasting. How about you? Maybe you're an architect or an engineer. You could teach advanced math. Maybe an HVAC guy could teach that. A woodworking guy, a carpenter, a builder could teach that. Auto mechanic guy could teach auto mechanics. A great guy on history. Maybe someone's been in our military and been around the world, and they volunteer. And all of us that volunteer, guess what? Our taxes go to zero. No property tax for us. Everybody else's gets cut way down. I want to flesh that out a little bit tonight with Alex Newman, because he got excited about this idea of thinking outside the box. Time to do it. So we'll talk to Alex Newman about that and why we should get rid of so many of these public school teachers who are brainwashed. Not all of them, but the vast majority are. We'll get into that. Then I want to talk to Dov Hikian. He is a Jewish gentleman from New York, because we know this has been a horrific week around really so many issues related to the Jewish people. But of course, the parading of the caskets of the dead Israelis in Israel. And now we find out that they killed those two little children with their bare hands. And now we've had the explosion of 15 buses in Israel. We thought it was 5. Our reporter came on today at 1 o'clock Central and said, no, Brandon, 15 buses these were on. These buses all pulled over because some lady saw something and said something. So they pulled the bus over and everybody got off. And I guess this happened on other buses, and all these people got off, and they've now found these on 15 buses. They were supposed to explode at 9 in the morning. The terrorists messed up and did it for PM instead of AM. And thankfully, providentially, I think that happened, spared the lives of perhaps hundreds of Jewish people, and maybe even some Americans, some Gentiles, but children, old people, just people. We'll talk with Dov Hikian about that, because also in Israel this week, some of these pro-Hamas Palestinian folks went into a predominantly Jewish neighborhood and started going after them. You got to see some of the video footage of what's been happening to some of the Jews just walking on the street in New York and other places with their little children. What happens to them? Minding their own business, just walking down the street. Then I want to play a video from you that we found that forgot we even had. From 1991, where I'm in seminar teaching in Tucson, Arizona. We brought in a film crew and produced an 87-minute documentary on the New Age movement. Still one of the dominant worldviews of the day. I want to show you about 15 minutes of that. I want to show you some videos here in just a sec before we go to Alex. And then at the end of the broadcast, I want to show you, we just got them today, 15 newspaper headlines that I had framed and matted for our control room. Historic, like landing on the moon, the assassination of President Kennedy, 9/11, Ronald Reagan being sworn in, the Iranian hostages being released. You got to see this. I had them matted and framed. A lot of them came from my mom. Thank you, Mom. She gave them to me. And because I love history and I love this kind of thing. Obviously, we're in the news business, right? I think they'd be cool to have framed and matted and hang in our control room. And we're going to have them hung tomorrow in our control room. But they just came in today. I'm going to show them to you. Pretty cool. And some of them came from you. Some of you in my listening audience have been sending me historic newspapers, and I'm framing them. And I'm going to give you my address where you can send me more if you want. And we'll give them royal treatment, VIP treatment, framed and matted as historical documents that they are. Pretty cool stuff. So I want to show you a clip. This is why people love Donald Trump. Listen to what happened with Donald Trump today, speaking to some of the governors. Listen to this. This is so classic Donald Trump, which is why so many of us love Donald Trump and his style. Here we go.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with the state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. The NCAA
Wow, there you go.
has complied.
Can you believe she would be that disrespectful to the president? No, we're going to comply with federal law. Well, these are the executive orders he's put down. No, we're not going to comply. We'll see you in court. And he says, oh, wow, okay. You know what? Here's the reality. Can you ever see, we talked about this on radio today at 1 o'clock, Aaron and I, Dr. Woods and I. Can you ever see President George W. Bush, H. Bush, any of them responding like that? No. Because a lot of them are part of the club. It's a club. Rhinos are part of the club of the Democrats. They all get along, like the Obamas and the Bushes get along today. That should tell us a lot. Donald Trump is not part of the club, and he's not going to play the game like they play, which is nice to your face, and then, well, try to throw you in jail or have you taken out behind the scenes. So he's not playing their game anymore. Well, this lady, reality is she should learn to be nice. Look at her. Now, I don't normally go after people over looks. I mean, it's not like I'm the best looking guy in the world, but come on. Look at that. Look at that face. Look at that scowl. Really? Why would you, if you look like that, why would you not try to be nice? Right? Hey, look, again, I'm not the best looking guy in the world, but I can offset it with personality. Oh, that's right. I tell my kids all the time, personality is 50% or more of what makes someone attractive. Literally. 50% or more of what makes you attractive is your personality. Why do you think you see these gorgeous supermodels with these guys that look horrible? Because they probably have a really good personality. They're funny, they're outgoing, they're extroverts. There may be other reasons. But reality is, look, sweetheart, mayor, or governor of Maine, I would think you would try to be nice. Maybe learn to cook a nice cherry pie, apple pie. You know what? You never dislike a woman that can just be nice and a great cook and hospitable and friendly. Everyone says, she's so sweet. She's so wonderful. I love her. This woman ought to try it. She really ought to try it. I'm telling you right now. I've told my 2 boys, yes, if you can marry an attractive woman, that's awesome. But looks eventually fade, and you're going to be stuck with the personality. So marry someone who has a great personality, who you really enjoy. You can take that down. I can't handle that anymore. Just come back to me. I mean, I can't handle that. I say marry someone with a great personality, because even after the looks kind of fade, guess what? They'll still hopefully have that great personality. You can meet someone, and I've met girls when I was younger, not dating my wife or married. And I've met some of the young ladies my kids have brought around. And I'm like, they're so cute. But you know what made them cute? Their personality. They were so outgoing and friendly and bubbly and full of sunshine. They were so nice and polite. That's personality's it, people. Personality matters. There's a song about that from back in the day, personality, right? But that woman, she maybe shouldn't try to be so nasty. No, she ought to be nice. She ought to play nice, but she's not going to play nice, is she? Let's go to this big news. Kash Patel sworn in today. Here it is, our new FBI director.
Place your hand on the Gita and raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear
I, Kash Patel, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties of the office of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Can you guys breathe easier right now? Can you guys breathe easier right now? I can. Last night, I said this at radio. I'm going to say it again. I went to bed last night. I said, babe, that'd be my wife I'm talking to, obviously. I said, babe, we have locked up the house, put down our security measures, and gone to bed the last 4 years, knowing that it's possible we could wake up to a knock at the door and the FBI trying to kick our door in because simply we're conservative, we're Christians. We've worked with prominent conservatives and produced their shows even to this day, like Roger Stone and so many others. And she said, I know. I went to bed so many nights thinking, will we wake up in the morning to the sound of the Gestapo, America's new Gestapo, banging down our door? It's a real threat. A lot of people feared. Neil McCabe mentioned that the other night. People that he knows that were getting phone calls from the FBI or just checking in with you. They're conservative people, conservative broadcasters. The FBI would call, we'll just check in with you. I want to ask you a few questions. Just pure intimidation. I said, hun, this is the last night we go to bed ever having to worry for a while about that because there's a new FBI director. Wow. My wife said, you know what? What a 180. What a 180. You know what? I'll say this. God has given us grace, given us, well, a pause, given us a period of time to maybe do something great for our kids, our grandkids. And we as conservatives and certainly as Christians should take full advantage of it. What a great opportunity. What a great opportunity. Congratulations, Kash Patel. Which, by the way, it's so interesting because I said to my wife, you know what's ironic is we have had to worry about the FBI. And now we have an FBI
I fought
director.
for the, I'm at the point now where
Where's that coming from? We have an FBI director now. I don't know, sometimes they get audio playing. Now we have an FBI director that we have actually produced through our control room, what, Logan, 15, 20 times? He says, yeah, probably 15, 20 times. We produced this FBI director through our control room as we produce different shows, Roger Stone and all the other shows we've produced over the years. Steve Bannon's War Room, Battleground. So we go from being afraid of the FBI and what they would do to now we actually have an FBI director who our team has worked with. My guys in the control room have worked with and put through our controls and got on the Skype and mixed it in and worked with him. We would have never guessed that a year ago, that this was going to happen. We wanted it to happen, but God has been so good to us. Well, I have to go to this real quick before we go to Alex Newman. Here's the latest about these two little kids in Israel. Listen to the IDF spokesman.
We can confirm that baby Kfir Bibas, aged just 10 months old, and his older brother Ariel, aged 4, were both brutally murdered by terrorists while being held hostage in Gaza, no later than November 2023. These two innocent children were taken hostage alive together with their mother Shiri from their home on October 7th, 2023. Contrary to Hamas's lies, Ariel and Kfir were not killed in an airstrike. Ariel and Kfir Bibas were murdered by terrorists in cold blood. They killed them with their bare hands.
And apparently, again, President Trump, according to one source, leaked that when he saw the parading of those coffins, he said, I don't want to see one building standing in Gaza. Whether that's true or not, I can't validate it, but that's the rumor, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, before we go to Alex Newman, we have, of course, coming up, folks, we have coming up our National Worldview Weekend, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, and it is filling fast. We haven't seen tickets fly this fast in a while, and it's still 7 months away. I got to get my list. Let's see who we have. Mitch Mark Mitchell, Mr. Mitchell. And that's not the father of Dennis the Menace, by the way. Mark Mitchell, from the lead pollster of Rasmussen. And then we've got Gordon Chang. We've got Alex Newman, Chris Martinson, Dr. Lana, Sidney Powell, and myself. That's for our not Ozarks. It wasn't the Ozarks. That's for our National Worldview Weekend we're holding here in the Mid-South, right outside of Memphis. Very safe community. Very safe community, middle, upper class community, nice hotels, restaurants. 30 minutes from the Memphis airport, easy to fly in. It's a very medium-sized airport, easy to get in and out of. Very easy to drive, very centrally located in the United States. Now, we only have 350 seats, and when they're gone, they're gone. The rest of you will have to join the Vault. You can live stream it on the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. But if you want to get tickets to this event coming up Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, worldviewstore.com. We are going to also have our traditional concert banquet on that Thursday night. We'll have tickets starting next week on that once we've signed the contract with the building. And I've invited, what's her name? The sweet little gal, Hadia. I got to learn her name better. Hadia. I invited Hadia, the gal whose parents were from Iran. She was born here in America, though, that was a Muslim and then converted to Christianity, goes to Jack Hibbs Church. Had on the other night. I was so impressed with her. I invited her to be a keynote speaker. She has worked as a contractor for the State Department, the FBI on Islam. She's an expert on Islam, a former Muslim turned Christian. She's going to be our banquet keynote speaker. So my piano player, my grand piano, my piano player, we'll do a few numbers like we always do. And then she's going to be our keynote speaker on that Thursday night. That's an optional Thursday night foundation banquet. We'll let you know about that. But otherwise, mark the 3rd and 4th. But you better get the tickets if you want them because they're flying. And we lowered the price to $99, $99. We've been able to cut our cost this year with doing it here in the Mid-South. We're getting a building that's much more reasonably priced. So again, all the hotel information and whatnot is available. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Now, we also have a big event coming up in Milwaukee. That's April 15th. April 15th. Dr. Andy Woods and myself. And guess who we've added? Aaron Lavarco. Turns out Aaron's going to be, our Israeli reporter is going to be in the States. We found out yesterday live on the air. So I'm like, Aaron, you want to speak? So Aaron said yes. So the three of us will be speaking on Tuesday night, April 15th. Again, the tickets are free, but you must register. So we put out enough seats. Register at worldviewtube.com/events. worldviewtube.com/events. Okay? And if you are registering 2 people, you have to register twice. Right, Logan? So you register the first time yourself, then you go back in and register again the second time for your spouse. You got to do that so we put out enough seats, all right? Tickets are free, but you got to register so we know how to prepare for you. Now, if you can't attend it right outside of Milwaukee and Waukesha, if you're a Vault member, you're going to be able to live stream it. Vault members only. Oh, and by the way, tomorrow night, Saturday night, February 22nd, our State of the Union panel live starting at 6:30 Central with J.J. Carroll, Todd Bensman, Colonel Rob Manus, and myself live 6:30 Central Saturday night, tomorrow night for Vault members only. And you can join the Vault and be a part of it if you go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right. Now, remember, I need you to go. I don't want to spend any more time on this because I got a lot to do tonight. Okay. But I need you to go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And I need you to check out all my sponsors. Okay. Check out all of our sponsors, whether it's Worldview Healthcare with the Wellness Company, your ivermectin, your moxicillin, whether it's Melissa House with GPA, that's our Gatatana, Bella Grace, Switch for Life, that's our Numi, our Vault, our Foundation, our worldviewwater.net to have your water purifiers under your sink and for your shower, Worldview Talk, your satellite phones, your phones that don't track and store your data, your solar generators, okay? I don't have a lot of time tonight. I got to keep moving. worldviewtube.com/sponsors, all right? worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, let's go to the Dolly cam real quick. How's Dolly doing tonight? She was being a mess last night, wasn't she? My wife's like, what? Who put a quarter in her? Look at her. She can go from being so rambunctious to that. There you go. She's on her Gatatana. Yes, I hope you got your pet on the Gatatana too, folks. Get them those nutrients, those antioxidants, those trace minerals. There you go. All right, let's get right to it. Joining me now is Alex Newman with Liberty Sentinel and the New American. Alex, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Thanks for being here. I threw out an idea to you today on the phone and wanted to discuss it with you on the air now. Last night, I was sitting around thinking a little bit after I got off the air about all the things that Donald Trump is doing that are outside the box. And people sometimes are afraid to think outside the box. I've always been an outside the box kind of guy. I didn't go through all the traditional education and programs and all the things everybody says you should have to do this, you have to do that. And my kids haven't either, by the way. And you know, I'm kind of an out of the box kind of guy. I'm not trying to be rebellious or, anything like that. It's just, why do I want to follow the herd? I'm not a follow the herd kind of guy. If I was a follow the herd kind of guy, and if you were a follow the herd kind of guy, neither one of us would be doing what we're doing. And I certainly wouldn't have launched Worldview Tube and this network because, you would go and follow the herd and do everything the way everybody else does. Donald Trump is not a follow the herd kind of guy. He is an outside the box kind of guy. His life is marked by that as well. Now he's bringing that into his second term. He's totally going outside the box. Hey, let's abolish the IRS. Let's fund it with tariffs. Let's let outsiders pay for our costs, not the folks in our government. Let's not tax the folks in the country. Let's tax the people outside the country with tariffs. All of these things shut down the Department of Education. And last night I got to thinking, I thought, you know what? How about if we took a high school in Texas or Tennessee or Florida, one of the more conservative states, and let's fire all the public school teachers at a high school, and let's do a test. And let's see if we can eventually get one whole school district where all the teachers have been fired. And instead, what we do is we bring in guys that are engineers, architects to teach the advanced math. I mean, I think they know advanced math if they're doing engineering and architecture, right? And mechanical engineering, et cetera. We bring in HVAC guys, mechanics. Here at our school in our town, it's over $100 million complex with sports and everything. They actually have a health area that is, I guess, blows people's mind, the health area and the things they can do. And they have an auto mechanic shop where they actually have a lift where cars get lifted up off the ground. It's like state of the art. $100 million for all this, right? And then we got to pay all the teachers. But why not bring in real mechanics, real HVAC guys, real engineers and architects? Let the kids take an advanced class and then actually go out on the job site with their hard hat and say, here's the building you guys been building. Talk about real world experience. Because here's the thought. Hillary Clinton wrote a book called It Takes a Village. Of course, by the village, she means the government. Well, if these leftists really think it takes a village to raise a child, then how about we actually do that? And let's let the village, the community, educate our own kids. So now you have real business people who are real doers. Because, people go into teaching. If you can't do, you teach, right? Now you got a guy who's really run a business teaching business. Now you got a real CPA teaching accounting. Now you got a guy with engineering, architecture degrees teaching advanced math. Now you got an HVAC guy, you got a welder, you got a carpenter, a builder. You got a guy who's a history expert who's actually traveled the world. If we did this in the right time, we could have had guys from World War I, World War II, the Korean War, teaching history classes on these things. And so you volunteer 50-minute block Monday through Friday. And if you do, your property tax go to zero. Okay. Everybody else's property tax are going to drop like a stone. And we're just going to fund the roads and the police and the fire department. But our cost for education is going to go down and the quality of the education is going to go way up. Because I don't mean to be unkind. I know there are some good teachers, some good public school teachers that are patriots and conservatives and Christians. But they know, because they're the ones that have emailed me for years, the bulk of your public school teachers are brainwashed, drones, and really some of the dumbest people you'll meet. One of my books, The New Age is Not So New. I think I'm quoting in Acquiring Conspiracy. The author, I think is Marilyn Ferguson, said that the one occupation that people she met the most that were involved in the New Age movement, which is occultism, were teachers. So reality is a lot of our teachers are really messed up people. I'm sorry. And we would get better teachers, better students, save a ton of money, and those who volunteer could have their property tax go to zero. Everybody else's could see theirs drop by 75, 80, 90%. Why don't we do this?
Well, thank you for having me, Brandon, and thank you for thinking outside the box. I actually think it's a brilliant idea, and I think even one experiment with this would prove the massive superiority over an idea like this over traditional government schools. The evidence is overwhelming that government school teachers, unfortunately, have been at the kindest thing you can say is that they've been terribly misinformed, right? If they went through a 4-year college of education, they were brainwashed. They were exposed to all kinds of faulty Marxist ideas about pedagogy. They were exposed to absolute quackery when it comes to teaching things like reading. And so sometimes I get like homeschool parents, I don't have an education in education. I say, good, you are significantly better off than the people who went through 4 years of this indoctrination program. There are now global systems in place to brainwash all the teachers of the world with the same nonsense. In fact, Bill Gates and UNESCO have been developing these going back at least 2 decades. So this would be an incredible advance when it comes to education. Now, ultimately, I'm a free market guy. I actually taught advanced economics for 12 years. So I've been a teacher myself. I really enjoyed it. But ultimately, I think free markets always do better. And this is true across virtually every realm, with maybe a handful of exceptions like punishing evil, which got assigned to the civil magistrates. But this is true in agriculture. It's true in grocery stores. I mean, we look at our grocery store, we look at our farms, and no sensible person would ever dream of saying, hey, I think the government ought to be in charge of our grocery store. I think the government ought to be growing our food. Right? We all know how stupid that is. We all can see Cuba. We all can see what happened in the Soviet Union and recognize that was a really dumb idea. And yet when it comes to schools, we say, well, maybe education, maybe they can do that. Well, they can't. And I think an experiment like this, first of all, I would be more than happy to volunteer my time. If I could get my property taxes to go to zero and play some small role in the education and development of kids in my community, I'd be very honored to do it. I could teach journalism. You could teach journalism. We could teach all kinds of things because, as you said, we have the skills and the experience of actually doing it. We didn't learn abstract concepts in a college of education. We've actually been doing things. And so I think this would be an incredible development. There's got to be some school districts across the country that would try it. When you and I spoke a little earlier on the phone, Brandon, I mentioned that most states, unfortunately, have very strict laws making it difficult to fire teachers. And this is true even in cases where, like, the teachers are raping kids. I mean, they're actual criminals, right? They're vile people who shouldn't be anywhere near children. And they just reassign them to a desk job. They move them to another school. So we have to find some state, I think, where a legislature would be willing to really go out on a limb and say, all right, maybe we're not going to switch our whole state's school system just yet, but let's do a little bit of experimenting. And I think what will become obvious very quickly is that this model that you're proposing would be an enormous improvement over the so-called education being provided by the so-called public schools. And I think it would catch on nationally very quickly.
Yeah, well, I would thank you for that. And I hope it would, because it makes common sense, right? And then think about this. I know a gentleman in town who's an architect. He owns a firm. He has an office in the Memphis Mid-South area and another one, I think, in Georgia, okay? If he went in and taught 1 day a week, or someone from his firm went in and taught 1 day a week, advanced math, math, physical sciences and whatnot, he could then start picking kids and saying, hey, you know what? Our firm will pay for your college, but you've got to sign a 5-year contract to work for us for 5 years or 7 years, whatever it is. I mean, you start recruiting these kids out of the schools and paying for their education, and you got to know them through your business people in your community. Maybe an HVAC guy or a auto mechanic owns a shop, and he's teaching these kids, like, this guy, this kid, this young lady, whatever it might be, is really good at HVAC, at mechanics, at physical sciences and whatnot. We should hire them and pay for their advanced training, if that's trade school or college, and then you sign a 5 or 7 year contract to work for our company, but we'll pay for your education. You get out, you not only will be debt free, but you'll have a job. And you start letting them recruit, just like you have NBA now already scouting high school students. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. And in fact, when we had that kind of liberalization, like the good kind of liberalization in this sphere, all kinds of new arrangements, things that you and I can't even imagine right now, would start taking place organically. That's what happens when you introduce freedom, when you introduce market forces, when you introduce volunteerism, and you get rid of a one-size-fits-all, totally failed system. I often compare the American education system to collectivized agriculture in the Soviet Union. Even if you assume, which I think is incredibly naive, but even if you assume that the people running the system have good intentions, which in the case of the public education system, you can prove they do not. But let's just for a minute, for the sake of argument, say these guys really love kids. They just want the best for these young people. They want the best for the country. Even if you assume that, collectivized systems always fail. They come up with these rigid models that essentially prohibit any kind of innovation, that punish anybody who thinks outside the box, tries to come up with a better way of doing things, and they reward failure, they reward bureaucracy. And that's what we're stuck with today. And it's not just a problem in a local district. This is a national problem thanks to the U.S. Department of Education. So with Trump coming in, thinking outside the box, saying, look, we're going to end all this federal oversight, federal control of education, that would allow what the Founding Fathers originally intended, the states to become laboratories for different policies. And this is true in the international level as well, right? I used to teach my economics students about this. Competition between jurisdictions actually promotes good policy. People are mobile. Capital is mobile. People want to go where there's lower taxes, less regulation, better options, better choices for their families. And what would happen is maybe Tennessee, maybe Florida, whatever states decided to start experimenting with this, they could show that it works. They could demonstrate proof of concept, and that would draw people in. That would encourage other states to pursue those ideas or maybe put their own spin on it. That would encourage local governments to start experimenting with different things. So we've got to break free of the shackles of this terrible failed system that was actually designed to turn our kids against God, to turn our children against their families, to turn our children against our country. And we've got to replace it with more choices, more options, not government-controlled, government-funded options, but a real free market. And Brandon, this is what we had in America before the government took it over. Very few Americans understand that there was a time when Americans were very highly educated. We had almost universal literacy, and all that happened before the government lifted a finger to get involved in education. We can do that again. And we can start taking steps in the right direction by shutting down the Department of Education, by having states experiment with exactly the kind of ideas that you just talked about, and districts, by allowing free market competition to come in here, by allowing churches and parents to once again play a major role in the education realm. The entire world would be better off, and so would every single individual child.
Yeah, and let's talk about these churches that are sitting empty 95% of the time, which, by the way, they're most of them, their attendance is dropping because people are tired of the liberalism, the wokeness in these so-called churches. So most of them are watching their numbers fall, particularly since COVID, and their older population is dying off. So pretty soon, these so-called churches are going to need some revenue. Okay, rent the building out to a local school that's now operating under this model. You know, we don't need to go build all these big buildings. Come on. And the school days may be cut drastically in, let's not get the kids up at the crack of dawn. You know, let school start instead of 7:30, 8 o'clock. Let school start at 9. You know, when I was a kid, the first bell didn't ring till 9, you know? I mean, this is stupid, the way we're getting these kids in there. What time are most of these kids having to be at school, Logan? 7:30.
Like
they got to be there at 7:30.
Yep. Which means they got to wake up at 6, and it's absolutely preposterous. The same is true all over the country. And Brandon, there are some little experiments like this starting to happen. I actually visited a school a couple hours south of me. It's a charter school, and I have, of course, big concerns about the expansion of charter schools, primarily because they crowd out genuinely independent private schools. But they had a really interesting program where they're doing some of what you described, where the children are actually doing hands-on work. They're learning how to build. They're learning how to repair. They're learning how to program. They're learning robotics. And so they're learning real life useful skills on the job from people who are qualified, from people who are competent, from people who do. And so this is the kind of thing that I think if we could get the shackles of the U.S. Department of Education, the state departments of education off of our communities, we could start moving in a better direction. And you're right. A lot of schools would try things like, hey, let's start a later day. Let's try ending a little earlier. Maybe kids don't need 7 hours of brainwashing brainwashing everyday homeschoolers do it in 2 or 3 hours, right? So you're right. The churches, too, could play a huge role. I actually serve as executive director of a ministry. It's a volunteer position, but that's one of the big things we do. We're working with churches across the country to encourage them to set up lifeboats for families that are fleeing from the sinking ship that is the government school system. Set up a co-op. Invite the Classical Conversations folks in. I serve as a senior fellow there. My kids are enrolled. They work in local communities all across the country. It's the biggest program. They got 125,000+ students across America. And that's one model that works really, really well. Then you've got Freedom Project Academy that's partnering with churches at a cost of like less than $2,000 per kid. They can go into churches. They have an adult supervise what's going on. So all these different models, if we could just get the shackles off, could proliferate, could expand. Parents could choose what is best for their children. And I guarantee you, parents would make better choices than bureaucrats and politicians, no questions.
Absolutely. And you mentioned computers. Can you imagine the people from the computer industry that could come in and teach, the guys that are doing and working with some of the good AI stuff, the people that know Drupal? I mean, so many of our more advanced websites like ours are built on Drupal, okay? So Drupal is a code, a very complex code, and most of the programmers are in India, okay? So if you could teach kids Drupal in the schools, boom, they could be making, big money right away because there's a shortage of Drupal programmers, right? So there's so many things you could do in America that are exciting. Now, people say, oh, come on, really? You've got pedophiles in our schools? Look at this headline from USA News, which I think is used to be Newsweek. Yep, U.S. News and World Report, actually. Feds call on states to stop shielding teachers accused of sex misconduct with students. This was back in 2022. The Education Department is calling for stricter laws on the state levels to prevent school systems from shielding teachers who are accused of sexual misconduct with students. I have another one here. Even CBS News notes, oversight failures allow sexually abusive teachers to quietly move from school to school. I've seen a poll recently of the number of students that report being sexually harassed at school. Pretty high.
Yeah, over 10%. And that was 20 years ago. Right now, the government has stopped keeping track of it because they know it's going to be worse. And that's just the ones who report it. Right? I don't know how any parent could be comfortable with that. How could you be comfortable sending your son or your daughter into that kind of environment where there's less than a 1 in 3 chance they're going to be even proficient in reading, writing, or math? 80% chance that they're going to leave the church, leave the faith as a result of the indoctrination. If you're a young girl, 1 in 3 chance you're going to seriously consider suicide, according to CDC data. 1 in 10 chance you'll actively try to commit suicide, according to CDC data. What kind of parent could continue to send their child into that kind of environment? The only way they can do it is acting like an ostrich. They stick their head in the sand. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. I'm going to pretend like my local school is different than no, it's garbage. But Brandon, there's really good news. I didn't mention this to you. You may have seen. Gallup just published their latest result just this month, last week, I think. They did a survey. They call it the Mood of the Nation survey, and they asked Americans, are you satisfied or dissatisfied with these institutions and policies? Government schools came in 29th place out of 31 things, okay? 75% of Americans say they are dissatisfied with the quality of education being provided by the government system. The other 24%, I assume they either work for the system, depend on the system, or live under a rock and have an IQ of the shoe size. But I mean, this is progress, right? Americans now realize our children are being destroyed. The system is an abomination. With Trump in the White House, with state leaders like our governor here in Florida, legislatures across the country taking action, we have a real chance to make incredible progress fixing this. What we have to just be careful of is that we don't make a big own goal, right? Bill Gates right now is out there pumping huge amounts of money into libertarian organizations to convince Republicans and legislatures that we should start government funding for private schools and homeschools so that eventually they can all be absorbed into this Borg. So we have a really good chance here. The other side sees it too. Let's make sure that we don't score an own goal, that we get the shackles off, and that we move in the direction of freedom, not more government control.
Oh, wow. Well said. Let me play a video too and let you go. I guess Bernie Sanders wants to keep defending the government school system, a socialist defending a socialist system. Wow. I mean, think about that. Why am I paying taxes to pay for someone else's education, right? Why should I have to pay? Exactly. Education. Why should I still have to pay property tax to pay for some other kid to play sports, to build a building for them to play football and to go to school? I mean, I shouldn't have to do that anymore, right? Right? That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But listen to this. Here we go.
I guess, our minority ranking member. I want to point out that it's interesting to hear you talk about, the United States and the manner that it is and the way that we perform when sometimes you actually openly present yourself as a socialist and what that means for this country. It's also interesting to hear you guys try to defend the Department of Education. When the Department of Education was first stood up, we were ranked #1 in the world globally in education, and today we rank 34th. And you think it's working? I don't even know how you defend that. I don't know how you can possibly, with a straight face, say that that's working. What we're doing is a definition of insanity, which means we're repeating the same thing, expecting different results. God forbid that President Trump comes in and actually wants to make changes. My kids all go to the public school system. My mother was a special ed teacher. My sisters, special ed teachers. My grandmother, my aunt, and my brother-in-law all in the school system. All teachers or principals. I get it. Understand it. Talk to them and ask them how well it's working. It's not. If we really say we're for the kids, then let's try something drastic. Let's actually make a change, because we're doing nothing but going backwards. And our test scores haven't improved since 1979. They've just continued to fall. So with that being said, I'm all for change, and I'm a definite yes. With that, sir, I yield back.
There you go. And I'm for something drastic, so-called drastic. I don't think what I'm offering is drastic. I think what I'm offering is common sense. Look at this. Here's a headline. Trump education pick, Linda McMahon, clears committee setting up confirmation vote. That was yesterday. So, and President Trump has said he wants to see her work herself out of a job. So, a couple closing comments here.
Well, I'm really hopeful that we're in an era where outside of the box thinking is not just on the fringes anymore. It's the norm. This is what should have happened a long time ago, but better late than never. We really have a historic opportunity here. And Brandon, I've told you this many times before. I do regard education as the most important issue, because if we get this one wrong, all the other stuff we're fighting for, it's over, right? We're going to lose our gun rights. Babies are going to be slaughtered in larger numbers. The border's never going to be properly sealed, even if we can hold back the tyrants for another generation. If they brainwash 80% of our kids, which is about how many are in the government pool system right now, we're going to lose on all those fronts. And most importantly, God has given us very clear commands here. This is the responsibility of parents, not politicians, not Bernie Sanders. We need to move back in that direction. And so, folks, be in prayer and then get active. Call your state legislators. Call your congressmen. Encourage people to do the right thing by getting their children out. Encourage lawmakers to do the right thing by defunding this system. There's nothing radical about that, right? When we found out that bleeding people was not actually improving their health, nobody would say it was radical to stop slicing people open and letting blood come out. We're in the same situation right now. There's nothing radical about stopping this foolishness. And thank you, Brandon, for all that you're doing to sound the alarm on this. It's absolutely critical. You as well. LibertySentinel.org, LibertySentinel.org. And tell them about your show real quick. Well, thank you. So we do a whole bunch. The Sentinel Report is our flagship show. We're very glad that you are carrying it now on Worldview Tube. I hope people will check it out. We do it once a week now, an hour per week, amazing guests. I hope people will check it out on Worldview Tube or wherever you get your media. LibertySentinel.org, LibertySentinel.org. Thank you, Alex, for your leadership. Thank you, Brandon. You as well. Alex Newman checking in. Check out his site, LibertySentinel.org. Joining me now is Dov Hikind. We had him on once before, second-time guest, back in a week, which tells you we like him. We like him, and so we're having him back, and you're going to have him on your TV screen more often, I believe. We have a reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. We've been reporting on what's happening over there, but I want to get Dov's take. He's a Jewish gentleman, and we used to belong to the legislature in New York, and he's fighting the anti-Semitism, as we have been doing for so long. Don't forget, 2018, 2019, each year, we held a conference called Holocaust Horizon, warning about the coming spike in anti-Semitism. That was 2018, 2019. He's also been warning about it years in advance. Dov, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be with you. And, You have been talking about it and warning, and I have. Things have consistently just gotten worse year by year by year. And believe it or not, the real turning point was October 7th. As bad as things were before October 7th, which was anti-Semitism, Jew hatred out of control, October 7th changed everything because it's gotten so much worse out there. It's scary that there's so much hate in this world. And some of the events in the last 24 hours, sicken me. I got to tell you, I'm a pretty tough guy, but I can't be tough when there's a 9-month-old baby kidnapped, taken. I mean, every single American, every person in the world, just think about it. How innocent is a 9-month-old baby and a 2-year-old child, 2 years old? And now we find out, as you know, Brandon, we find out they were murdered. They were choked to death. Brennan, what is it to say? Every mother, every father, like, what the hell is going on in this world?
And while all this is coming out, of course, and after October 7th, and all of the horrific images we saw on October 7th, which we carried here for 8.5 hours that weekend, we didn't scramble them because we said we're not scrambling them. I said, everyone should want to throw up. They should be shocked to the core. They should be saying, I can't tolerate watching this, but they're going to watch it anyway because we have to document this really happened, because there'll be those who say it didn't happen, and there are going to be those within hours are blaming Israel. That's what we said on October 7th as we were broadcasting live, not scrambling any pictures. And yet, with all of that, here's what went on the other night, and I see you in the crowd. Here's what went on in New York, where you live. And there you are. So, do I understand correctly that a bunch of pro-Hamas people went into a distinctively Jewish community to taunt the Jewish community?
That's exactly, Brennan, what happened. You're talking about a couple of hundred radicals, real radicals who support Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, who hate America. Let's get that very clear. They hate the United States and what we stand for. And they went into the heart of the Jewish community. 100,000 Jews live in Borough Park. I represented that area for 36 years. And they came into the area with hate-filled messages, wearing things to cover their faces. I got to tell you, it was not shocking because we see it all over the United States. But I got to tell you, the people in Borough Park, the Jewish community, they were out in force. They were proud. They were strong and not afraid. By the way, some of the leaders were afraid, but not the people. God bless them. But It was, again, it just reminded me of, what we have going on in our great, great country. Such hate-filled individuals, and it's not just in Borough Park. They are all over the United States, and I hope with Donald Trump we're going to see some changes very, very soon.
Yeah, very soon. He's gonna stop funding some of these schools that are promoting the anti-Semitism. These people are going to lose their scholarships. Here's what went on. There may be some language. I may have to mute it, but this is what went on the other night in this distinctively Jewish community. Watch this, folks. Wow, look at that. Tell me more about that, Dov, please.
Yeah, look, it's very, very clear. These violent individuals who hate Jews, hate America, we're looking for trouble. And I got to give credit. I want to make sure to do that. The New York City Police Department, the police did a magnificent job all night long under very difficult circumstances. But, when people look for violence, they find violence. But again, no one is intimidated. No one is scared. It was a great victory for the Jewish community of Borough Park. And again, let's just keep this in mind. it's not that the Jews went into their neighborhood. They came into the heart of the Jewish community in Borough Park, looking for trouble, supporting, and this is happening literally as things are unfolding in the Middle East with the hostages. They don't care. They think the killing of babies is okay because they're Jewish babies. They don't have a problem with that at all. Trust me. They're not shedding any tears as the rest of the world is when they see a little child. When we find out what happened to these bodies, baby choked to death. Oh my God. Oh my! What else is there to say? What else is there to discuss?
Well, now
and
we're
this is
now
what
now
we are
now
dealing
we're-
with.
And as you know, we have a reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco, for our network that we pay because we understand. Really, I believe that if you want to understand what's happening in the world, you've got to keep track of Israel and what's happening to Israel, and we do that. And yeah, we also talk about the 70 Christians that were just beheaded in the Democratic Republic of Congo. 70 bodies of 70 Christians have been beheaded inside a church there. So common theme, guess what? Islamist, going after the Christians, going after the Jews, right? But now our report on the ground in Israel today during radio/television 1 to 2 Central on our 74 Christian stations and on World YouTube here for TV, we thought there were just 5 buses on which they found explosive devices. And thankfully, I think 2 went off, 3 were detonated, and no one was harmed, or they were turned off, or the wires clipped so it wouldn't go off, whatever. We now find out from him today, they ended up finding this on 15 buses. 15.
Right.
I mean, clearly, and apparently there were some descriptions written on these buses that are on these bombs, I should say, that specifically are telling them that they were from the Palestinian Gaza Strip, that this was a targeted attack. 15 buses, which is going to be blowing up children. And thankfully, they set their timers wrong. So they were set to go off at 9 o'clock at night versus 9 in the morning. You're hearing all this too, right?
Absolutely. Look, the people of Israel are looking at this event as an amazing miracle from God. This was God. There's no question about it. Look, everything is from God. But here we have a situation, as you're pointing out. Can you imagine? All of these explosives were planted on buses that were meant to murder hundreds and hundreds of men, women, and children who would get on the bus in the morning. It was supposed to be AM. They did it PM. Now, can you and I figure that out? Except God intervened. What else could it possibly be? What a miracle. And by the way, it originated from the so-called West Bank, from Judea and Samaria. So, this is what Israel is dealing with. It is hate. It doesn't matter if it's a child. By the way, it doesn't matter if it's, when things happen on October 7th in Gaza and people were being murdered in those communities, the barbarians, they didn't care if it was a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim. They killed, they massacred, they butchered. It didn't matter to them. So this is what we are confronted with. But what a miracle. I got to tell you, Brandon, that's all. You can't say anything else. It was a young woman. We don't know who that person is yet, but it was a young woman who noticed something on a bus, and she reported that to the authorities, and that's how this thing unfolded. But can we only imagine?
See something, say something, right? See something, say something.
Absolutely. And that goes for America as well, because we got people in this country, our beautiful, wonderful country that we live in, the greatest country on the face of the earth. Let's make that very, very clear. No one is trying to get into any other country. Everybody wants to come to America. I wonder why. Okay, the radicals in the streets tell us how horrible America is, but everybody wants to come to America, right? You got to be careful. You got to keep your eyes open, because unfortunately, there's some real bad people out there.
And I want to ask you about that.
And Americans.
And I want to ask you about that. But here's what I reported on my Worldview report tonight. According to observers, each bomb carried a payload of approximately 5 kilograms. One of them was inscribed in Arabic with the words, quote, "Revenge from the Tulkarm refugee camp," end quote.
That's one, yeah.
The idea.
That's one in the West Bank.
That's in the West Bank.
That's in the West Bank.
Okay, which is the derogatory term for Judea and Samaria.
And so, yeah, we call Judea and Samaria.
And they just foiled another major attack in there that our reporter was telling us about as well. So again, this tells you what's going on there. Now, with that being said, you mentioned America and us keeping our eyes open. Do you think that America, with all of these young people that have been brainwashed to support Hamas and believe that these are freedom fighters, how long is it before these kids are groomed to be terrorists themselves? How long before you see buses exploding or terrorist attacks in Jewish communities at a greater number, a greater level in America? In other words, do you see this staying isolated in Israel? Or do you see these young people that have been brainwashed on the streets the other night attacking Jews, taking it to the next level?
If you look at what's going on in Europe right now, on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, whether it's in Germany, in France, in England, in Belgium, violent things are happening against Jews on a regular basis. So the possibility of this happening in this country, and we've had many violent attacks upon Jews over the past couple of years, but can it get out of control, not only for Jews, but for Americans? Brennan, the answer is yes, of course. Anyone who puts their head in the sand and says, oh, no, not in America, of course not. Hey, what happened September 11th in our country? How many Americans were murdered by terrorists, by radical Islamists? How many? How many thousands? They did it then. Does anybody believe it cannot happen again? Well, let me tell you, if we would have continued with a Democratic administration, and again, to me, it's not about politics. I'm just giving it to you straight. The Democratic administrations that existed over the last couple of years, we were heading in that direction because you had many people in the Democratic Party. You have many people there. You have this radical caucus in the United States Congress with Tlaib and Omar and AOC and many others. They hate this country. They hate Israel. And we were heading in that direction, I guarantee you. Anti-Semitism, 4 years, Brennan, talk, zero being done. Yep. Zero being done. Yep. They spoke a great game in the White House. They issued 70-page documents on anti-Semitism. Well, what did they do? What were the consequences of acts of hate against Jews and against Americans? The answer is nothing, zero, zilch. But that's all going to change. Thank God that this administration, with Donald Trump, with the new leader of the Justice Department, the new Secretary of State,
the new FBI director.
Exactly.
And you've heard how strong he stands for Israel. You've heard Kash Patel's comments about Israel, right?
They all do. They all do. Thank God for each and every one of them. As I said on your show, none of them are Jews. I love them with all my heart and soul, period. Our biggest problem in the Jewish community are Jews.
Like Schumer,
Nadler, and so many other liberal Jews who do not understand the reality of what's going on in this world. They are the greatest danger to the Jewish people. But the people that we have in this administration, the American people, non-Jews all over the country, they are absolutely remarkable. I love them with all my heart and soul. God loves them, period.
Amen to that. Let me show you a video. This was last fall. This is a man just walking down the street. This is on your Twitter feed, by the way. Look at this. Look at this. Masked man tries grabbing his Jewish child. Okay? I mean, you have another one on your Twitter feed of a Jewish gentleman also walking with two of his children. And look what happened to this poor guy. Okay, this is so disturbing because, you know, as a father, I'm sure you are as well, as a grandfather, you start thinking about trying to just walk on the street with your children, and you've got to worry for your physical safety, but much more theirs in America. And I was out with my wife last weekend and the weekend before running some errands on Saturday. And we were in part of town here in the Mid-South where there are a lot of Jews. And guess what we saw on each Saturday? Jewish families either walking to synagogue or walking home from synagogue. And you know what my first thought was? My first thought was, I fear for their safety. I should never have to think about that in America. And yet my first thought was, I fear for their safety. How can a man protect his wife and children walking to or from synagogue if 3 or 4 thugs want to create 3 or 4 Hamas, pro-Palestinian, brainwashed people want to create problems for that man and his family? I mean, this is reality now. This is like the 1930s.
Brennan, you're absolutely correct. Those 2 videos you showed are 2 of literally hundreds and hundreds that we have. Not every incident is recorded, but today, you know, there are video cameras all over, but there are hundreds of cases. Let me tell you, in New York, where you have a huge Jewish population, over 1 million people in New York who are Jewish. Brennan, I had someone sitting at my Sabbath table just a week ago, a young man, 28 years old, young, strong. He said to me, when I go to Manhattan, I live in Long Island. He says, I take my yarmulke off. I hide anything that makes me look Jewish. I will not wear a Star of David. As you said, Brendan, this is the United States of America. What has happened that Jews have to, first of all, no one should ever take off their yarmulke if they wear one, okay, their skull cap. No one should ever hide anything about them being Jewish. You cannot be afraid. When you are afraid, the enemy wins. You cannot be afraid. But that is the reality, Brendan. This is what's going on. You know, you saw those pictures, innocent people walking the street, and some hoodlum, a coward, that's what we call them, cowards, just runs by, hits the person on the head, lifts a child, for God's sake, a child, creating terror. Let us remember that all of these things, it's not just, oh, nothing happened, everything is okay. No, when you are the victim of an act of hate, you live with that for the rest of your life.
Here's another one. I mean, you're right. And by the way, on his Twitter feed, folks, he has a lot of this on his Twitter feed. Here's another one. Going after a Jewish man. Look at that senior citizen Jewish man.
Get out of here.
Spitting at him.
You did something.
Fuck off!
You're a loser. Get out of here.
Get out of this neighborhood.
What's wrong with you? Look at you. Look at you. Now you're scared. Now you're scared. Get out of here. Go. Leave. Leave. Get out of here. Oh, you're smiling. I should ask you congratulations. Get out of here. What are you doing? How are you free Palestine right now? All you're doing is harassing people. Get out. Go. Leave. No one's going to do anything to you. Just leave. Get out. Give me a big spot. Get out of here. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. What a moron. Again, of course, this guy doesn't know anything probably history-wise. That's a fake name for a fake people that don't exist. They don't have a capital. They don't have a currency. It's a fake name thanks to Yasser Arafat. You know, a Roman emperor gave him the name and said, hey, let's call it Philistine or Palestine after the Philistines, the arch enemy of the Jews. And Yasser Arafat comes along and says, hey, we're the Palestinians. Well, no, you're not. Your DNA does not go back to them. You're not Philistines. But again, people don't understand this. And free them. Sadly, the Jews, the Israeli government pulled out of the Gaza, left them the schools, left them the orchards, left them the nurseries to grow trees and everything, left them all these businesses. And what did these dogs do? The dogs destroyed it because that's what dogs do.
Brennan, I know what you're talking about. because I used to go to those areas. It was called Gush Kativ. There were 12 Jewish communities, 9,000 people. They didn't bother anybody. They were living there with their schools and synagogues. And Ariel Sharon, who was the prime minister at that time, made a decision to remove all the Jews. You know what? Our enemies will be happy. We're showing good faith. You know what the result of that was? That our enemies set up missiles from those areas that the Jews abandoned for those missiles to hit Beersheba, Ashdod, and many other places. I used to go to those areas all the time to show support for the people. And those people were forced to leave their homes. Was there any good result? Was there peace? Nothing. It just showed our enemies that we were weak. And when you are weak, you're dead.
Well, you talk about the kibbutz, and we've talked about this week. These people that were running those kibbutz on the border of Gaza, many of them were self-described, probably leftists, social justice warriors, etc., right? And what did they do? They opened the gate. They had a place in the fence for the folks from the Gaza to come over and to work, and they paid them, right? They wanted to push the coexist concept and idea, and maybe a noble concept or idea, but not one rooted in reality, because you have two ideologies that are diametrically opposed. When the Quran and the Hadith are talking about the Christians and the Jews, or the rocks cry out, oh, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him. When this is what they train their kids, when they've been training their kids, and I can take it to Time Life publications from the 70s, training little elementary school children to kill Jews, and you think you're going to get along. Now, these poor people that believe that, and they opened up their kibbutz on the border of Gaza to the Gazans to come over. You would think there would be a group of people that they would say, hands off those people, because they're not like the other folks. They are our friends. They try to help us. They want to come together. No, those were the ones they went after. That right there proves what they did to those kibbutz, proves a two-state solution will not work.
Brendan, you are right on target. You are perfect, absolutely perfect on this. The body that was returned yesterday of, I believe, Odette Lifshitz, 80. Who kidnaps an 83-year-old, an 80-year-old person? Tell me. You take an 80-plus-year-old person and you take him to Gaza? But that's what they did. Let me tell you about Odette. Odette was someone who was dedicated, devoted to the Palestinians, to the Gazians. He was a leader of the movement to get along with them, to bring people who were sick from Gaza to Israeli hospitals.
That's right.
Guess what they did to him? They murdered him. They butchered him. By the way, those children who were strangled, the story hasn't come out yet what they did to the bodies of those two little babies to make it look like something else. But this gentleman the body was returned yesterday, he was one of the leaders to make peace and to get along and so on and so forth. You know what? It's not about Zionism. It's about being a Jew. That's the problem.
100%. Well, let me close with this. I'm sure you have read the document put out in 73, 74. It was called the Weather Underground's document manifesto called Prairie Fire. I have it in the next room. No, I have it actually right there in the bottom shelf of the library case I have right there. It's the manifesto of the Weather Underground. And if you read this is a group of communists, Bill Ayers, Bernardine Dorn, etc. If you read, anyone can find the Weather Underground manifesto from 73 online. And when you read it, what you find out, everything old is now new. Because what are they doing? They're praising the CCP, Communist China, and they are praising the Palestinians, the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. They are trashing on the Jews. And what is this? This is communist. These are communists, right? And now we have this, what we've been talking about here for now so many years, the red-green axis, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist, and this red-green axis. And I'm telling you right now, these people that we just saw in the videos a while ago, that came into the Jewish community, I guarantee you those are some of the groups that were funded to be a part of Black Lives Matter, who said, one of their leaders said, we are trained Marxists. So they were part of the Marxist agitation in the street. Now they're part of the Jew hatred agitation in the street, and they're funded by the same red-green axis. So Americans, if you say, oh, well, that's, their problem, I'm not Jewish. Let me tell you, the Islamists, the Marxists, they're united. They hate all of us, and they have stated they want to burn the system to the ground. That's why it's called prairie fire. Closing comment?
Well, you're again, on target again, perfect. You got to educate yourself. No one has to believe me or you, Brennan. Educate yourself. Look at the facts. Look at the history, and it's all there. It is the radical left, former communist, socialist, call them whatever you want. They are united in one thing, going back for a very, very long time. Hating America, hating the values of our great country, and hating the Jewish people. Again, let's not talk about Zionists, because, by the way, these are people who hate Jews with a passion. It's that simple. And we have to wake up. We don't have to be afraid of anybody. We need to stand strong and proud and united, and we win. Just keep one thing in mind. We have God on our side, but we have to believe that.
I want to show this because this has been retweeted by you, I believe, which is why people should follow his Twitter handle. I'm going to show it here in a minute. Several people have been wounded after being stabbed at the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin. One man is reported to be seriously injured. Now, who do you think goes around stabbing people in front of the Holocaust Museum?
That's what I was talking about before. I mentioned Germany. I meant Berlin, the event that happened today. But Brennan, it's happening on a regular basis. Not everybody follows it. Most of it doesn't get reported. The liberal media picks and chooses when they're going to report something. The liberal media is our greatest enemy, period. Publications like the New York Times, forget about CNN, but all the liberal media, unfortunately, they are part of the problem.
Well, here, folks, is where you can have some of the solution, which is knowledge, information. Follow him on X. There it is. There's his handle. Follow him. And, of course, he's with Americans Against Anti-Semitism. And we look forward to having you back. Dolph, thank you so much for all you're doing. You're always welcome here. You have any story that pops up, don't wait for me to contact you. You reach out to us. Will you, please?
Thank you. Brennan, God bless you. I love you, and thank you so much.
You too, my friend. You'll be back. And in the meantime, folks, follow him on X, will you? Very, very important. Now, like you just said, so much of our mainstream, progressive, liberal, pro-Marxist, Christian-hating, Jew-hating media. How many outlets out there in America, even the so-called conservative ones, would do an interview, a long-format interview like we just did? And if they did it, how many times would they have just interrupted with a bunch of commercials? Look, we have chosen a particular format, and that is to put content first. And we prove that. Because if it was just about selling you something or just about making money, we would stop and have commercials about every 10 minutes. But we just did a long format interview. Now you say, how is it you do that, House? Well, for those of you who maybe don't know, that are new, we do it because we're largely, really, 100% listener supported. And one way you can support us is by going right here, worldviewfoundation.com. If you're like, I really like this network because I get so much information, so much content. He puts the stream out there for free. Then he turns around, puts up the individual interviews the next day at Worldview Tube, watch on demand for free. I really like this. I get to watch a show and get long format interviews without interruption. How does he do it? Well, this is how. Worldviewfoundation.com is one way. Worldviewfoundation.com. Reality is, folks, I do get frustrated because I know how many people we reach. And yet I see what our foundation brings in, which we're thankful for. The reality is, like my wife said the other day, Brandon, with what you're putting out, you ought to be able to fund the entire network on just the foundation. Yeah, we should. I see what some of these groups bring in. They bring in millions of dollars, and they don't do squat. But you know why they're able to bring in millions of dollars? A couple reasons. One, they don't take on controversial topics like we do. They don't want to talk about a lot of the things we talk about because it's too controversial. They want nickels and noses. It's like your local so-called churches with your pansies in the pulpit pastors, like so many of them are. Not all of them. No. If you have a real good pastor, shepherd, take care of them. Pay them well, take care of them because they're a rare find. Most of these so-called churches, they don't talk about anything controversial because they want all the nickels and noses they can get. That's the same way with a lot of broadcast platforms. They're not going to take on too many controversial things or go too far with the truth. You can never go too far with the truth. And so a lot of groups raise a lot of money because they're in some ways, they are within the political framework of the conservative movement. These are the things that you can talk about in the conservative movement without being considered too extreme. Like that Zionist Brandon House. Well, sorry. We're here to present the truth. But we should be able to bring in a lot more than we do. So folks, if you've been watching and you can afford to support us and you don't, we need your support. Okay? Because otherwise we have to go to selling commercials, selling you soap and pickup trucks and cruises and pharmaceuticals. I am not going down that road. I really don't want to go. Okay? I'm certainly not selling pharmaceuticals to you. But I guess if someone came along and said, we'll pay you X dollars to run commercials for pickup trucks and soap and detergent and we're like, well, our audience isn't wanting to pony up and help support us. Okay. Well, let's hope we don't ever have to go that route. But that'll be up to you guys. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there. Now, another way you can help us is promote us. These are flying out the door. These are cards that you guys have asked for, business cards, and you can just go to worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com, order up a pack of 20. We'll ship them to you free of charge. I had to have another 1,000 printed today, locally, because they're flying out the door. And then pass them out. Say, hey, if you want a network that talks about the truth, the issues of the day on a law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, national security, borders, Israel, the Middle East, through the lens of a Christian worldview, here it is. You ought to check out Worldview too. And so promote us. Even if you cannot financially support us, and I know there's some of you in the audience that can't, that's one reason why we push it out for free, because we don't want people limited. But you can certainly order the free cards and pass them out, right? So please do that. Worldviewstore.com. All right. We've been going through our archive, as you guys know, and Logan's been pulling a lot of my old VHS tapes and dumping them into digital so we can preserve them and show them to you. And there are things that I forget that I even did and even have. And as I was going through some of our old boxes of stored up stuff, I found a VHS tape of a 87-minute presentation that I did on my first book, which I wrote in 1990 on the New Age movement, Cosmic Humanism, the New Age. And in this kit, this New Age is Not So New kit, was a VHS, and I really forgot all about it. I knew I had the stuff, but I forgot that there was a VHS in there per se, or just overlooked it. And I'm like, hey, Logan, we should pull this VHS tape off. I'd like to see what's on it. I didn't know what was on it. And when I saw it, I immediately recognized it for what it was. I said, I think I'm in Tucson, Arizona. And now I'm remembering, I hired a film guy to come in, I think from Pennsylvania. Your mom and I flew to Arizona, and I gave a full seminar on the New Age movement that I've been doing in churches all over the country. And we had it filmed and turned into an 87-minute documentary. And I'd forgotten all about it because this was back in 1991. And so I want to bring you about 15 minutes of that right now, because the New Age movement, Cosmic Humanism, it's bigger now than it ever was. This is one of the 6 dominant worldviews that rule the world. There's more than 6 worldviews, but there are 6 dominant worldviews that rule the world. There's secular humanism, cosmic humanism or New Age, Christianity, communism, Islam, and postmodernism. Those are your 6 dominant worldviews. There are more than that, but there's 6. And many of those are merging. Marxism with so-called Christianity, New Age with so-called Christianity, etc., right? So I want to share this with you because I think it's very instructive still, but also to show you, when I tell you we have a 35-year track record, I have a 35-year track record of doing this. I don't say that to brag or boast, but folks, now pretty much anybody with a camera and a microphone can get on TV and radio, and great, good for them. It's a free country to do that. But very few broadcast outlets have a 35-year history, are built on a 35-year history. And so I think you'll find this instructive. I've been doing this a long time, folks, and I haven't changed courses. That's what one of my friends said the other night. You've been doing this a long time, and you're still committed to the same Christian worldview you were committed to when you first started. So yeah, I've been doing this since 1990. This is a documentary filmed before a live audience in Tucson, Arizona in 1991. And it really just shows you our history, but a much younger Brandon House. But I'm talking about a worldview that's more dominant now globally than ever before. Watch this.
Ministries and Concepts of Truth Publishing Ministries and Concepts of Truth Publishing is proud to present New Age, the traditional family's quest for survival, with author and seminar speaker Brandon House.
An apostasy is simply a falling away from traditionally held spiritual truths. 2 Thessalonians tells us, Paul writes, "Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for the day will not come until the rebellion occurs, the apostasy, and the man of lawlessness is revealed," the Antichrist. So the rebellion must occur first, the apostasy must come before the Antichrist can be revealed. And I strongly believe that the New Age movement is the apostasy of the last days, or plays a key role in the apostasy of the last day. Just a few short months ago, a young lady in, I believe it was either North Dakota or South Dakota, was pregnant, and she was sniffing paint fumes. And she was told to stop doing this. And she didn't. She was caught doing this again. So they threw her into jail. And then they said to her, "You can't damage your child or your fetus through sniffing paint fumes, but it's okay for you to have an abortion. You can murder your child, that's okay." And that's exactly what she did. Someone put up the money and she had an abortion. One is okay, but one is wrong. Everything is relative. You decide for yourself what is right and what is wrong. They claim that Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who we believe was God incarnate, was just an individual who was more highly involved than you and I through the process of reincarnation, and therefore he was a spirit or master guide. And he left the realm of being a spirit or master guide and took on the form of man to be a leader for the age of the Pisces. And he went to the cross laughing. He was like an actor in a play. It was all a script. And he knew that he would die a martyr for his cause, increase his movement. And he would go back to the spiritual realm where he was before he came to earth, where he was a spirit or master guide. And by doing this good deed, hopefully he could go on to become what? Next step up, a part of the great nothing. So that's who they claim that Jesus Christ of Nazareth was, who we believe and know was God incarnate. Peter Hoagland said this when he was a state senator for Nebraska. But understand that now Peter Hoagland is a United States congressman for the 2nd District of Nebraska. And Peter Hoagland said, "What we're most interested in, of course, are the children themselves. I don't think any of us in the legislature have any quarrel with the right of the reverend or members of his flock to practice their religious freedom, but we don't think they should be entitled to impose decisions or religious philosophies on their children, which could seriously undermine those children's abilities to deal in this complicated world when they grow up." Can you imagine a United States congressman who's in charge of putting laws on the books telling you basically fundamental Bible-believing people don't have the right to indoctrinate their children in their faith? That's basically what he said. Hello, I'm Brandon House. What you have just seen are some highlights from my recent seminar in Tucson, Arizona. A few years ago, as I was traveling throughout the country ministering in concerts, I discovered that there was a great need to alert the church of the dangers of the New Age movement and how it is affecting the traditional family and the values of the Judeo-Christian faith. This led me to develop the first curriculum and media package ever published on the New Age movement, entitled The New Age is Not So New, The Traditional Family's Quest for Survival. What you are about to see are the most important 90 minutes of our 3.5-hour seminar. If you have not received a complete copy of our curriculum and media package, stay tuned, and at the end of this video, we will give you all the information you need to receive your own copy of this very important information. And now, to the auditorium of the First Evangelical Free Church of Tucson, Arizona, as we begin our seminar. The subject that we're going to talk on tonight is the New Age movement. And it isn't new. The New Age is not new. It's been around since the Garden of Eden. And we're going to look at how it began in the Garden of Eden, look at some of its characteristics, and move forward and look at how it is affecting the traditional Judeo-Christian family in education, a big area, in the media, through television and movies, in the American corporation, and how it's involved in music that our kids are listening to, and then how it's entering into our church. First of all, before we begin, let's just look at a few characteristics of the New Age movement. How many of you saw a December 7th, 1987 ad with Shirley MacLaine on the cover? This is the ad. And for being the liberal magazine that it is, I think Time Magazine did an excellent job of revealing what the New Age movement is all about. I'd like to give you just a few characteristics of the New Age movement. Some of them are characteristics that have come through my own study, and some of them have come through that of Time Magazine. If you have a pen, you'll be filling along with us this evening, but you've got a few minutes before we start doing that, so you might want to just get those pens and pencils ready. Let's look at a few characteristics of the New Age movement. Number one, the New Age movement is based on occult metaphysics, denying the deity and lordship of Jesus Christ. The New Age movement is part of the occult. Now, we all know what the occult is, having to do with Satanism and that of Satan. We know the difference between an occult and a cult. A cult, C-U-L-T, would be like the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Moonies, the Mormons. That is a cult. But the occult is anything that has to do with Satan. The New Age movement is an occult, denying the deity and lordship of Jesus Christ. The New Age movement is a combination of spirituality, superstition, fad, and farce. That's according to Time Magazine. Combination of spirituality, superstition, fad, and farce. The main goal of the New Age movement is to define yourself, which means to find the God or Christ who lives within you as you. Again, according to Time Magazine. Now catch this. This is very, very important in the New Age movement. It's very crucial in the New Age movement that you define yourself. You find the God or Christ who lives within you as you. This, to the New Age, is the means of salvation. You have to define yourself. You have to find the God or Christ who lives within you as you, so that you can begin to live and rule your lives as a God. One New Ager has said, it is no longer the God out there that we need, but it's the God in here, the God who resides within you as you. One New Ager has said, kneel and pray to yourself. God resides within you as you. So it's very crucial in the New Age movement that we first are able to define ourselves, find the God or Christ who lives within us as us. Then we begin to live and rule our lives as gods. We have the power to create our own future, our own destiny, and therefore we can be our own salvation. Another basic New Age doctrine of the New Age movement is you can be whatever you want to be. And you'll hear this expressed as unlimited human potential. You have all power, truth, and knowledge right here. And they're just waiting to be harnessed. Therefore, you can do whatever you want to do. Another popular New Age belief is that whatever you can conceive, you can achieve. Why? Because you are God. The New Age movement proclaims that man is God, and man created God in his own image. Can you imagine their boldness? Man is God, and man created God in his own image. The New Age also proclaims that man is co-creator of the universe. And number 8, the New Age movement proclaims that within man lies all the answers of life. Why do all the answers of life lie within inside of man? Because man is God. Also because in the New Age movement there is no right, there is no wrong, there are no winners, there are no losers, there is no good, there is no bad. Everything is relative in the New Age movement. But they turn around and say, the only absolute is your own reasoning. That's a contradictory, isn't it? To say there is no right, there is no wrong, there are no winners, there are no losers, everything is relative, but, wait a second, the only absolute is your own reasoning. That's contradictory, isn't it? And it's contradictory consistently like that arise as we study the New Age movement, because it is the age-old lie that Satan presented to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, it's not going to be consistent. The New Age movement is striving for a new world order, which includes a new world government, a one world religion, and a one world economical structure. Let me ask you, who in Scripture is said to come on the world scene and to desire to bring about all those things? The Antichrist, right? And I think the New Age movement is preparing the way for the Antichrist. And I think that the New Age movement is the apostasy of the last day, or plays a very big role in the apostasy of the last day. And we'll look at a little bit later what an apostasy is, what the apostasy is, and how it is affecting us, and how it's preparing the way for the Antichrist. So, as you may have gathered, the New Age movement is hard to define, because there is no right, there is no wrong, there are no winners, and there are no losers. So tonight you may get a little confused, but don't be discouraged. It gets confusing because they don't have any boundaries, no limitations. And therefore you can't put the beliefs of the New Age movement into a box and say, now this is what they believe. Because the New Age movement is a self-made religion. Everybody can believe what they want to believe, because the only absolute is what? Your own reasoning. And let me just say that what we're looking at tonight is not what every New Ager would believe, because of the fact that it's a self-made religion. But it is, I would imagine, from our research, 90 to 95% of what every committed New Ager would believe. Your individual like Shirley MacLaine and David Spangler and Marilyn Ferguson and Benjamin Creme and on and on. These are the main doctrines that those who are really serious about the New Age movement would adhere to. And again, let's not get trapped in believing the words, it's termed the New Age. And a lot of Christians say, the New Age doesn't affect me. That's Shirley MacLaine, that's crystals, that's reincarnation, that doesn't affect me. But the New Age movement has been around since the Garden of Eden, and their philosophies of atheism and humanism and pantheism and relativism are affecting the traditional family, and they've been around for a long time. It's nothing new, and it is affecting the traditional family. The New Age movement is a combination of many religions, Hinduism and Buddhism and sorcery and black magic and white magic, and then to make it extremely confusing, they've thrown in the Judeo-Christian faith. They've twisted it, taken it out of context, and thrown it in there along with these other Eastern mysticism and other occultish beliefs. And that's what makes it so subtle and makes it so deceptive, because it looks like the real thing. See, that's one of the characteristics of the apostasy. We'll have a form of godliness, yet deny God. That's what Paul tells us. The New Age movement definitely does that. Why is it called the New Age? The term New Age is derived from the belief that we are entering into a new age. We are leaving behind the age of the Pisces, and we're entering into the age of Aquarius, or the age of new beginnings. How many of you remember the song from the musical Hair in the 60s? This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And astrologers believe that this is going to be a new age where men will have a new, higher level of consciousness. Therefore, we have the term New Age. And astrologers believe that these ages cycle from 2,000 to 2,400 years, and each of these ages is represented by a sign of the zodiac. You have the Pisces, or leaving the age of the Pisces, or entering into the age of the Aquarius. These ages are thought to cycle from 2,000 to 2,400 years. So you say, when will this age of Aquarius, or this age of new beginnings, really begin? Well, we could always be 400 years off. But the New Age movement is constantly quoting the year 2000. We'll see that tonight. They're constantly quoting, we will by the year 2000 accomplish this, or we hope to by the year 2000 accomplish this. And we'll see that as we go on. But that's why it is called the New Age. We're, of course, all familiar with crystals. And a little bit, a while ago, we saw the cover of Time magazine with Shirley MacLaine holding crystals. And those to the New Age are thought to be able to hold incredible healing and energizing powers, thought to be able to restore the flow of energy to the body. And many people believe that certain crystals hold the collective consciousness of the world, and that these crystals can be programmed like a computer if only you concentrate hard enough. And of course, we know that these type of crystals are not the kind of crystals that we're talking about when we have the crystal ornaments on our Christmas tree, or our crystal candy dish on our coffee table in the living room. These are usually a very rough cut rock they hang around their necks, or wear around their necks, or have set up in some kind of a shrine, or some type of area where they, again, maybe pray to that because they feel that holds a collective consciousness of the world. For some, it's more akin to like a rabbit's foot. And the number numeral 666. To some, again I say some New Agers, hold a special meaning. Some New Agers believe that the more times we use these numerals, either in word or in pictures, in text, we're sending a message to intelligent life in outer space and telling them to come and help usher in the new world. Again, that's just what some New Agers proclaim. Well, let's look at reincarnation. Reincarnation is a popular belief in the New Age movement. And it comes from the Hindu religion. As I said earlier, the New Age movement is a combination of many religions. So we can see where they pick their varying doctrines from these varying occults and religions. And the idea of reincarnation comes from the Hindu religion. And the whole idea behind reincarnation is that when you die, your soul is repeatedly passed from one body to another. And this process continues until your good karma outweighs your bad karma. Your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds.
All right, before we go tonight, guys, I want to show you what some of you have sent me. A lot of these have come from my mom, but some of them have come from you. Let's have the first one, Van. Awesome. Now, Dolly does not like these, so she may bark and carry on. Now, they just came back in today. Logan, are we going to get all these? They just came in today. They still have the plastic on them. I'm going to keep the plastic on them until we get them hung. But look at this. This is not that, it's a historic document, okay? I know we're not all as crazy about George Bush as we used to be, but hey, it's a historical paper, and it's framed beautifully, and that's going to go in our control room. So that's the first one we got. They get better than this. Hang on, folks. I got some really good ones. Here we go. This one's pretty cool. Look at this one. Now, this one's for my mother. Well, that one's for my mom, too. Look at this. Look at that beautiful frame. What's up, Dolly? This is Man Walks on the Moon. American gamble pays off with powerful moon dust. Yep. Now, that one is dated what? July 21st, 1969. That's the Jackson Daily News. I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. We were living there at the time, obviously. All right, here's the next one. Look at this one. Oh, this is a cool one. My mom gave me this. My mom gave me most of these, by the way. This is the Washington Star. That's not even a paper that's in circulation anymore. We have the last publication of it in a minute. The 52 hostages rest in Germany. 3 freed early site abuses. The Washington Star. Do you guys remember when the hostages were released? I sure do. All right, this is a sad but tragic, but yet historic. Here we go. Star Tribune. This is obviously 9/11. What? What's up? This is obviously 9/11, and so that one is framed. There you go. You were afraid of these a while ago when they first came to the studio. It says barking and carrying on. Let's see what we got here. Oh, this is also the Washington Star. Okay. This one says, you're pretty intrigued by this, aren't you, Dolly? At long last, freedom won for 52 hostages. So that's another one on the hostages. Washington Star. That's dated January 19th, 1981. Quit trying to eat the business cards. You did that last night. Come on. Oh, this is a cool one. The Washington Star. Again, this paper's, again, out of print. You're about to see the last... Whoop, Logan, can you fix that? I hit the wrong button. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Hit the wrong button with this. All right, here we go. This is Reagan Takes Oath. I was at that inauguration. We were living in D.C. at the time. My parents took me. January 20th, 1981. Reagan Takes Oath. Hostage deal on track again. Of course, they were released, weren't they? That's cool. All right, what do you think, Dolly? Ooh, I remember this. I was in high school. I think I was in 10th grade. What's this one say? Shuttle explodes. Teacher crew killed in massive fireball. That's the St. Paul Pioneer Press. We were living there at the time. Well, they still are. You can't bite the frames. That's January 28th, 1986. Yeah, I think I was a sophomore in high school. Oh, wow. This is another old one. My mom gave me this one too. The Jackson Daily. Voyage of the Ages streaks toward the moon. July 16th, 1969. That's the Jackson Daily News. There you go. Aren't these cool, Van?
Yeah.
They're awesome. You like history too, don't you, Van?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is a cool one. My mother gave me this one too. Because I think she gave me this one too. I'm pretty sure she did. This is the Memphis. This isn't even a paper around. Do you even remember that paper? No, of course you weren't. It wasn't around when... I don't even know how you even say that. The Memphis Press Scimitar? That's dated November 25th, 1993. Thank you, Mr. President. Goodbye. Oswald slaying as seen by the nation. Look at that. These are some pretty historic. And these are all hanging in the control room number 2, which is pretty appropriate, isn't it, Van? Yeah. We're a news crew, a news company, news organization. We have news, historic papers. I like it. I know. Hey, Logan. We should put the address up there if they want to send us any of their historic papers they don't want. Ask Logan to do that. I can hear him talking. Look at this one. This is the final edition of the Star, the Washington Star. This is probably the 875. This is the final edition of the Washington Star. 128 years of service ending. What year was this? I'm going to say 1980. No, 81. August 7th. 1981. Look at that. They even have a nice letter from the White House from President Reagan. So that's a very historic paper, their last one. That paper gone on for 128 years. Aren't these cool? Oh, now, if you guys want to send me, if you guys have any papers in your attic that are in good shape, up to frame, and your kids and grandkids don't want them, you send them to me and we'll give them the VIP treatment. We'll frame them and mat them. Because I bet you there's some of you have some really cool ones as well. Here's the Washington Post. Freed Americans flown out of Tehran. Reagan sworn in as the 40th president. That's the Washington Post. And I was there. My parents took me there on the lawn of the White House, or of the Capitol. Is this the last one? No, not yet. Ooh, Israel hit. This is appropriate, being we have a reporter on the ground in Israel. Israel hit. U.S. allies retaliate for Iraq missile attacks. Fear of chemical warheads proves unfounded. This one is dated January 18th to the 20th, 1991. There you go. Israel hit. 2 more? Yeah. Thank you, Van. Yeah. All right, everybody remembers this one. This is the Star Tribune after 9/11. Invincible. That's an iconic picture. Everybody remembers that, right? Pretty soon, they're here. What the guy shouted, "We can't hear you," or something, and he shouted back. Pretty soon, that the terrorists were going to hear from us. And we went after Iraq, which made no sense. The terrorist attack was from Saudi Arabia, but we went after Iraq. That made no sense. Wow. Here we go. Star Tribune, World Toast 2000. This is the year of the 2000. What year were you born, Van? Okay, you were born 2 years after this. Yep, there you go. Happy New Year. What's that? All these were made. There was not one of these, he just said, were all these made before you. I don't think there was one. No, there's not one here that these were all printed before you were born. Yeah, that one's really cool, isn't it? Kennedy slain on Dallas Street, the Dallas Morning News. This one came from a viewer. There you go. Isn't that something? Now, if you want to send us your papers, wrap them well, take good care of them, wrap them well. Thank you, Van. Good job, Van. You see the P.O. box there? That works too. You can just send Brandon House, Worldview Weekend, wherever you want. Brandon House, Worldview Weekend for the address, and then that P.O. box. If you have a headline like that, paper headline like that you guys don't want in your attic, your kids and grandkids don't want them, send them to me. We'll get them framed and matted, but they got to be historic, not like, some milk cow wins the ribbon. Your milk cow won the ribbon at the Wisconsin Fair. That's probably newsworthy for some, but not for the wall. Don't you think, Van? Yeah. It's got to be a major event, a major event. So if you have a major event, what do you think, Dolly? You were so scared of those when they first came in the studio. But then send us your paper, and we'll get them matted and framed to preserve them for historical purposes. So anyway, we'll have to probably show you the control room wall downstairs in control room 2. This is control room 1 up here. We'll have to show you control room 2 downstairs. We got all those framed and put in there. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it, Van? Yeah. Logan, you like that? Yeah. Yeah. How come I feel like I'm more excited about it than anybody?
You weren't alive for all this stuff.
What's that, Van?
You weren't alive for all this.
You weren't alive for all that. Yeah, I wasn't alive for some of it. The Kennedy assassination, I wasn't alive for that. What'd you say, Logan? I think it's gonna be cool too. Yeah. All right. I guess that's it, Logan. Should we call it a night? Folks, if you appreciate what we're doing, I can't stress enough, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you, Van. Worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. We need your support, folks. And please don't forget about going over to the page of our sponsors. Okay? Check out all of our sponsors. The Bella Grace, which I take every day. What did you say about a picture you saw of me the other day, Logan? He said, your hair looked like you're about to go bald. He showed the picture. He goes, look at this. I've been kind of laughing at you, talking about how this has made your hair grow, but reality is it has. You're about to go bald in this. I'm like, I know, it's getting thin, dog. But not anymore. It is nice and thick. The gals even had to use the thinning shears on the side. So again, it's all related to Bella Grace. And my wife says she gets all the credit because she got me on it. It's true. True. Very true. So if you want to get Bella Grace, go to melissahousebg.com or go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all of our sponsors. The Numi, this is loaded with glutathione to detox your cells. You know, there's all the talk now. Even the Daily Mail UK is talking about all the dangerous things that were in the shot. Oh, finally, they're telling the truth. We've been saying it now since 2020. And now here in 2025, they're finally saying it. Well, you might want to detox your cells if you got the shot or around people that shed on you who had the shot or boosters. Glutathione is in this product. 162,000 studies on glutathione to detox your cells, okay? Also, studies show glutathione can remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And of course, you know about the Gatatana. Dolly loves her Gatatana. Half a scoop every morning in her food. I get a scoop in water every day. And speaking of water, you want to make sure you're getting the water that's got all the chemicals out of it, because that can be cancer causing, right? You don't want any, you don't want to drink water with cyanide and copper and chlorine and all this stuff in it. All these pharmaceuticals, right? Look at all that. Drink good, clean, healthy water. Isn't that what Dr. Carrie Madej was telling us a few months ago? There you go. Worldviewwater.net. You'll find them at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, Worldview Talk, all of it right there. All right. I hope you guys are all registered for the big event tomorrow night, the State of the Union panel. These 3 distinguished guests in studio, but you have to be a member of the Vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault, Worldviewtube.com/vault. It's a way for us to say thank you to those who are supporting us. All right. And again, those of you that give to the foundation, we thank you. Some of you say, well, I give to the foundation. Can I join the Vault? Can I get a pass to the Vault? Those are 2 separate organizations, okay? We can, and for tax purposes, we have to keep your donations clean, because when we send you tax receipts, what does it say on there? You've not received product or services in return for this donation, right? So we have IRS rules we have to follow. So the question is, if I give to your foundation, got to get a membership to the Vault. They're 2 separate organizations, and they have to be for legality and tax reasons. So if you join the Vault, we appreciate it. You give the foundation, we appreciate it. Those are 2 separate groups. But if you join the Vault, we give you special live streaming events as our way of saying thank you for your support. So please join the Vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right. I will be back, Lord willing. Roll the music. I'll be back Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, right here at worldviewtube.com, as I continue teaching through the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Revelation 13, that's where we got the mark of the beast. We got the, I think, the revealing of the false prophet. There's a lot in Revelation 13. So please come join us for our Bible study, our church service that I've been hosting for many years now on Sunday nights, as I start out on Sunday night with Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. Worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. All right, for all of us here, including Dolly, thank you for being with us. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us on this February 21st, 2025. And I got to wish my wife a happy 34th wedding anniversary. 34 years today. Wow, it's been a great 35 years. The best 35 years, that's for sure. So there you go. Joining me now is going to be Dr. Andy Woods and our reporter Aaron Lavarco on the ground in Israel, because sadly we now have, as we were reporting yesterday on the air, we've now added to it, I think, another 2 buses that have exploded. Apparently this was a thwarted terrorist attack. 3 of the buses, or 2 or 3 of them blew up, and then a couple of them were detonated by the IDF or whoever does that over there in Israel. Thankfully, no one was killed, but apparently this is a Hamas deal. And there was something inscribed on one of the bombs, I guess, that ties right back to, it looks like Hamas and Gaza, okay? So there you go. On top of giving back one of the bodies that was not the body of the mother of the 2 murdered children, which, by the way, yesterday we were being told that the 2 children died from starvation and dehydration. Today we're being told by Israeli officials, I guess after studying their bodies, that they died at the hands of the terrorist. So I don't know if that means they beat them to death. I don't know if that means they strangled them to death. I don't know what that means, but it says by their hands. So I don't know what that means. We'll ask Aaron Lavarco. But folks, they are still at